Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's March 3rd. This will be our chart lesson for today. And quick look at our daily chart. You can see that we opened higher. We opened and traded higher and reversed, traded down. We closed off the low, although we still closed very bearish for the day. Notice that we did close right along this support resistance line, so it kind of gives us maybe a little cleaner look at where that line might be. We're still very oversold. So doesn't mean we can't go lower, but I would expect that we're going to rally out of here before long. It looked like we were going to do that Friday, but it didn't stick, and we made another new low today. We almost made a lower low than this low. So we'll have to see what tomorrow brings. I'm not sure what to expect. Maybe some more sideways stuff here before we bounce, or we could even go lower. But we're definitely in very oversold territory. And so a rally is coming soon, at some point, but we never try to pick tops or bottoms because these oversold conditions can last much longer than you would expect. So, but big bearish day really, and it's a engulfing bar on top of that. So, but notice how we closed way back up here, and so I kind of readjusted the lower part of this range now. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. But let's flip over to the 2000 tick chart, take a look at it, and we'll go through the trades. And here's our chart. Very crazy, ugly chart. It's we had this sell off early. We do this just about every day lately, and then we rally back. It looks like we're going to take some back, and then we end up selling off again, and it just keeps going this time. And it's real choppy. We'll sell off, and then we'll kind of chop sideways to rally a little bit. Then we'll sell off, and and you can see where we rallied down here late. Uh, but this is tough trading. There's nothing easy about this trading, even though it's a big downtrend. I mean, we go for long periods where there's no trending. I mean, really, from right here, let's say 12:30 to almost 2 o'clock, 1:30, 12:30 to just prior to 2 o'clock. I mean, it's mostly up to sideways. And then boom, off we go again. Same thing here. We just kind of, once we broke lower here out of this possible range, we just kind of, prices tried to recover and they just never could and finally sell off. So it's difficult to get a feel for this. You gotta just about narrow in. There's a bigger two-tiered channel working down through here, but it never even got confirmed. I mean, I'll show you what I see, but it's hard to trade it because we really don't ever come back to that trend line. There it is. You can see it, but you can see the midline coming into play and bouncing it. But it doesn't really help you. So I don't think you really need it. It just kind of clutters up the chart, so we'll leave it off. It would help you understand that maybe you're in a downtrend, but outside of that, it's not very helpful. So anyway, let's zoom in here, and you can see really from 9 o'clock to about noon. I mean, it's just, I mean, even though there was an upward trend here early, there's just not much going on. I mean, it's mostly sideways and choppy. This is hard. This is where it's hard trading. So, but let's zoom on in here. There was a 9 o'clock news item this morning, so be flat 10 minutes or so before that. And then once it looks like it settles down, you can kind of start trading again. It's not on the chart here now. It's fallen off, but it was a 9 o'clock PMI, which was a high volatility issue. And you can see it looks like we dropped pretty quickly, but we took it back almost, within a few minutes and then kind of chopped sideways and rallied higher. So that's the thing about a news item like that. Generally, before the day is over, you're going to take most of it back, and a lot of times within an hour. And that kind of was the case here. We took most of it back, or all of it back for that matter. But let's zoom on in here. 7 o'clock came as we're making this move down right here, and you rally again. And notice this new high, and you got a first entry, second entry. There's clearly two legs down. They come back to test under the EMA, and that's kind of a reversal pattern, and it does kind of look like a possible range day. And you can see this has moved up, and we got an overshoot up here. So we could still try to retest that, but we could just reverse. So this looks like a trap to me. There's plenty of room to get out here. So even if prices are going to rally again, I think we're going to go lower. And you should at least get a scalp out of that. So I like that trade. You don't get a huge runner or anything, but you probably could get a runner with some extra points out of this. And then we kind of find the bottom and we rally here. Close outside. We try to make a new high, and then we test these lows again. You could argue there's a triple test down here, but the fact that this didn't break higher, and then you get another lower bar, I just sit tight. Now, it does break lower here and turn up, so there would be a second entry long there, but it doesn't really look like a place that, two legs down where you're going to get a good reversal. I think you're just better off to sit tight. If you'd have broke higher here, maybe you enter this as a triple test, but it doesn't do that. And there's certainly not rejection there. So I would just sit tight. Could you trade this as a higher low? Yeah, you might, but it's just not a very good setup. I'll mark it green, but I'm not crazy about it. But we run up. You get a close outside the new high, and you get a first entry, and then you get a lower high here with a second entry short with a nice bearish bar. I like going short there. And then you get another reversal. This one's not ideal. It closes on the wrong side of the EMA, but if it breaks below that bar, it's probably going to act like a reversal. And there's plenty of room to get out. So if you took that trade, it turns out to be the true reversal this time. But it's not the perfect setup. So I marked it green. Just chopping sideways here. I don't see anything. Then finally we get a break again. Or I'm sorry, you bounce early here and you get a first entry and you get the break of the channel and a second entry short right there. And on this one working up, you get a close outside and new high. I like going short there on that second entry. And that's a nice entry that you probably get a runner on. Now, you probably don't want to hang on to it through all this mess, but it's a possibility. You should at least even if you just ran it till the first bar that closes bullish that gets a break above it would be right there. Well, that's almost 10 points. So that's a pretty nice move. And you should probably get a runner on that. Then you're just chopping sideways and it breaks. That takes us into the news. Skip the news. And here, about 9:05, it looks like everything's really we've almost taken the news move back and everything's kind of working, kind of slowed back down again. And notice the new high, and you get a first entry and then a second entry long right there. Plenty of room back to the support resistance in case it acts as resistance. It doesn't really act. It pushes on through, but then it turns down again. And we trend down, close outside new low. There's a first entry long here with a big bullish bar, but I think you just sit tight. And this one works up, close outside, move to a new high, and a second entry short below that bar. This one's actually an engulfing bar. At this point, I don't think I would, right here at this support resistance line, even though that's mostly green, I'd let this close first. If it closes bearish, by all means go short. And it does close bearish, and I like going short there. And that's just the first entry, and it bounces right off what looks to be a trend line. We haven't have it confirmed yet, so I'm not that crazy about entering that when I made it green. It's still clearly two legs down, and we've been bouncing down through here, so being that far away from the EMA, it might be one you want to go ahead and take. You're better off to wait on the higher low, which comes here, and you don't get any huge runner out of it. Actually, if you held on here, you probably would have, but I don't see any reason to hang on to this, scalp out, and then break out, close it at break even at worst case scenario if it comes back here. And you may say, hey, this looks like a triple test. Not really to me. I'd call that a double test, but I don't like that signal bar anyway. It does take off. You get a close outside, first entry, and then there's a second entry long here, but that's just sideways congestion. Don't enter in that. Same thing here. Runs up to the high, turns down, and then we just kind of start chopping sideways. We get a failed breakout here, a higher low here. I like entering there. Um, looks like we're going to try to get back in that range there. And it looks like we are back in this range. Maybe we'll go to the other side. And you did get a confirmation of your trend channel line right here and here. So we're definitely in an uptrend, although this one's flat enough that you could probably trade it both ways. So we talked about the higher low here and the second entry short there. And then all of a sudden you get a break. And notice you got to move down, close outside new low, and that's a second entry long. I marked this green, but it's the first break of the trend line. I kind of like this trade. It's it's like 19 ticks though, but so far away from the EMA. I like it. I marked it at least green. I like the trade. I'll be honest with you in real time. And then we just start chopping sideways here. And so you got to play range rules here. There is a breakout here, but I don't like that. You don't get a higher low. There's a breakout here, and again, you don't get a higher low, or lower high, and it actually bounces off right here. So you bounced off twice. I don't think you want to go long there, but it runs up, close outside new high, and turns right back down again. And I don't see anything to enter there. Then you're just working sideways now. You do get a trend down here, and you got to move down, close outside, a couple of swings to a new low. It's mixed up in this sideways stuff, but I think you could argue there's a triple test there too. And so I like going long right there, as long as you got room to get out for these highs. You get a triple test here, but there's just no room there. So I'd skip that one. Run down, close outside a couple of legs to a new low. You do get a higher low here, but this is your signal bar. I don't think you want to go long here yet. You do have a break and a couple of legs down to a new low. I guess you could argue for that to be green, but I'd want to wait on the higher low, which comes here, and the signal bar is too bearish. It's a sad thing because it's a great move, but that's the way it is. Sometimes you miss good moves by following the rules, and you always follow the rules, because if you don't, you might miss some of these by doing it, but you'll keep yourself out of bad trades that cost you money. So no setup there. Close outside a couple of swings to a new high, and then it bounces here on the first entry. And I don't think you could call that a triple test. I don't think you want to go long. You do get a close outside a new high all in one bar. It's just a first entry though. Pulls back here, first entry, and then a second entry right there, but not a very good setup, just kind of working sideways. It comes back and tests it here, makes another higher low. But again, it's a really big bar. There's not much room to scalp out. There's no guarantees we're going higher. It's like 20 ticks, and you can see it doesn't go very far. You would have got a scalp, but it doesn't go very far. And so then we're just chopping sideways again. Now, by the time it gets here, you got a 1, 2, 3 triple test. So I like going short there. You really get a triple test here, but the signal bar is just not good enough, in my opinion. So I think you got to wait. And of course, you're looking for a new high, but you make it here. That's why I like going short. And then you get a new low here, and you get a first entry, second entry that confirms the trend line. So I like going short right there. That's a nice move down. Another rally back with just a first entry, and then you're just kind of chopping sideways before it takes off again. And again, you're just moving sideways. I don't see anything down here that I want to enter long or short. You get a little failed breakout here, but signal bar is no good. Turns out to be a good move. Then you get a first entry, second entry. But again, your signal bar is no good. Move to a new low, and you're chopping sideways again. Now, there is a first entry, second entry here, and I believe there's enough room to get out. Yeah, there's enough room to get out there. But you're really working sideways here, and you can see that right there. And so it is a second entry. Again, maybe you take that. I mean, I'll give you a green, but I'm not crazy about You've already had your break and new low here, and then 2 legs back. So it could be the middle center of a pattern, but it looks so sideways, I just leave it alone. And it looks like you might could get a long an entry down here, but I'd wait on the higher low, and that doesn't come. We run up here and make a new high, and then you get a first entry, second entry. Um, I like going long on that one. Pretty good signal bar, clearly 2 legs down. You get a break of this and a new low, and this one takes off again. So it was a pretty nice move. Again, I marked this green. It's not a perfect setup by any means, but it does take off. Makes a second entry short up here, and you get 2 legs down and a second entry long. And you can clearly see that channel close outside, new low. That's a second entry long. Then you suddenly get a higher low right here. It's an engulfing bar, but I'd wait for it to close, so I like going long just above that. And then we chop back down and test this again. Now you get a triple test. Go long again there. Maybe this time it'll take off with a triple test, and sure enough it does. So it rockets on off. Runs up here and we fail out the upside. Now that is a second entry short. I didn't draw the... And you can see that I don't think we have a close outside yet, so I don't think you... And there's not a good enough signal bar up here anyway. But then we come down here, we make a lower high, but there's not much room. It looks congested, not much room. You see it doesn't really go anywhere. Then you get another one, and again, not enough room. It looks like we are confirming that trend line, and maybe it's going to win out, but you don't know that. Notice you do get a little breakout pullback short here, but I don't think that's good enough to go short on either because you don't have any room to scalp out. That runs back down, and you bounce at this same support down here again. You bounce 1, 2, 3 times. Finally, you get the break. This is like a first entry, second entry, third entry, and this is just sideways. So you might look at playing that as a breakout there, but it makes a new high, so I would leave that to green. And you see it would have worked, but it does make another new high. At this point, I'd leave it alone. It does make a new low here, and I think you could argue that you've at least tested that 3 times. If you go back across, we've been bouncing there multiple times. And so you got a break and a new low. I like going long there, and this thing just takes off. Boom. And you get a close outside, a new high, all in one bar. You could argue there's a second entry and a lower high there. But you got that support across there. I'd just sit tight. And it would have worked, but you can see it fails and rockets up real fast. But I just think you have to skip that one. This one runs up, close outside, new high. So first entry. And again, you might argue for this one to be green, but I'd wait and see if I get a new low. And you get one right here. Or a lower high is what I should say. And you get one right there. And that would be, notice this new low right here, that would be a first entry, second entry. So it's a second entry short as well. And that one takes off. And that's just a first entry, first entry, first entry, first entry. But you notice you get a close outside new low, and then 2 legs back up, and a second entry short, and that does confirm a possible trend line right there. And that thing just runs on down. I don't see any entries there. Bounces and kind of gets stuck sideways. Again, I don't see any setups long or short there that I like. And the next thing you know, we're going lower again. And again, I don't see any setups down through there. Bounces again. Now you might trade this high or low, but because we got an overshoot. We don't get the break in new low, but I do believe we get an overshoot because look how well that's fitting. And this shoots past that, closes. Bounces off the lower trend channel. So you could trade this as a higher low right here. Still plenty of room back to that EMA. Just a first entry, first entry. You just get a few first entries back to the main trend line. It turns down again. I don't see anything I like there. There is a second entry long here, but with no close outside the trend channel line yet. Turns back down, lower high, and then we're working sideways again. And I don't see anything across there I like. It looked like the range was higher at first, but that turns out to be a midline, and the low portion of this is a little bit lower than what I had. And you do get a little failed breakout a couple of times, but nothing I see that I'd want to trade. And that drops on down, and you do get a second entry long down here. Technically, it's not a second entry long because this is a double top. So first entry, second entry. So that's like a third entry long, but it's not a very good signal bar. We're in a downtrend. I would just sit tight. Would have been a nice trade, but just not a very good setup. And that takes us into 230. So again, a lot of price action here, a lot of setups. Again, this is not easy trading. It's rather difficult, but it's what we have, and you got to make the best of it. So you either trade it or you sit and you watch, and if you don't feel comfortable, don't take a trade. And if you get too bored, best thing to do is just close up and go home. But eventually you do get some moves down here. So the morning set up pretty good, and then the afternoon was kind of quiet. We did have a few bounces here, and they're consistent bounces. So those were not too difficult. But anyway, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.